independent in thought, and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
We were literally under assault. These demonstrators, I'm sure some of them were well-meaning citizens, but many of them were obviously trained to get in our faces, to go to our homes up there, to basically almost attack us in the halls.
Oh, Mitch McConnell right there. Is everybody okay? I just want to make sure everybody's all right. Are we good? Now, producer Phil, you said this morning you heard trucks outside, but you, for a moment, you thought this is it. They were rounding up the women, but it was just a garbage truck?
Yeah, it's just the garbage they collect on Monday mornings.
Okay, thank God, because I was for sure thinking that was going to happen. It didn't happen. It didn't. We're all still alive. Everybody okay. It was a crazy last 18, 20 days with Kavanaugh and all of this stuff. And for all intents and purposes, I believe it's over now. And I talked to a lot of women this weekend. Some of them tweeted at me. Some of them, text the show. And they, DM'd me. That's direct messaged me on the YouTubes and the Twitter and whatnot. And some of them were angry with me because, you should believe all women. And then some of them were like, it's not, I'm going to get on with my life. And it's crazy because I sit back here and I look at the way that this thing shaped out. And I was yesterday, so Jack and I am down in San Diego and are hanging out, and Jack's playing in the pool and then running in and out of the jacuzzi in the pool, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to these two older ladies who are here from Tennessee, and they were on vacation, and I'm talking to them. I asked them, what do they think about this? And they're like, I don't really care. And they're like, oh. But watching people this weekend, I always try to keep everything in perspective. So you've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people, say 100,000 people there. We have 300 million people in the country. 350 million plus people. It's a smidge. Oh, there was stuff happening it's a small sample size, right? So I'll take a deep breath. I saw the insanity of the way that some of this has gone. And the way that people have approached this is crazy. It really is. And look, I understand. People are like, what do you think's going to happen now? I said, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. And I want to share this. This is what's going to happen, okay, people? For all of you freaking out and thinking the first thing that's going to come up is Roe v. Wade. He didn't get to choose, all right? He doesn't. Sotomayor and Alito and several others are going to sit down, and they're going to start looking at stuff. Chief Justice Robert is the one that's going to be driving this ship here. All right. And they're going to, like they do with all with all justices, new justices, they're going to handpick several cases that will, and this is a way, if you're Chief Justice Roberts, this is a way where you get into a situation where you're going to pick and choose a few of these things that are easy to roll with, that aren't going to come with a ton of controversy, that aren't going to come with anything, and you're going to go from there. But I just want to explain to people, you guys do realize, as I explained to somebody this weekend, that about 40+% of cases heard by the Supreme Court are unanimous. Unanimous decisions. Think about that for a second. Very few are 5-4. Very few. But we seem to think that that's all this is, right? No, it's not. A lot of these cases are slam dunk cases. And that's what you're going to get at first. You're going to get a few smidge cases that just people look at them and go, these are easy, and they'll get them out of the way. Doesn't mean that things aren't going to come down the pipe soon, but not as soon as you think. And the discretion of the Supreme Court to say, you know what, we don't want to hear this. We're going to kick this down to a lower court. We don't want to hear this yet. We're going to kick this down. You're going to find a lot more of that, and you'll find that if Chief Justice Roberts does this the right way, he's going to be able to drive this in a way that I think will calm a lot of things down. Absolutely, 110%. Over the weekend, you had a lot of, the usual talking head stuff, and Susan Collins is feeling the hatred of one side of America. By the way, as I explained to somebody this weekend, she wasn't the deciding vote. It's because she's in the GOP. She's a woman. Manchin had as much, if not more, to do with it than anything else. The fact is even if she decided to say no, they had enough with Pence breaking the tie. So everybody slow your roll.
I don't think she was coming forth with a political motive, although I do not think that she was treated well by those who breached her confidence.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think she was treated well. I think there needs to be some stuff looked at on how she was treated and how this situation played itself out, how we got to the point where this got into the public. Because don't tell me that you didn't have anything to do with it. Maybe you yourself didn't have anything. You want plausible deniability, Dianne Feinstein. But the reality is it got to somebody, and her name got out to somebody, and that's how this whole thing shaked itself out. So don't tell me that you didn't have something to do with it, because this was your last gasp effort to stop what was taking place. And she continued to talk about whether or not he was the one she was talking about.
I do not believe that Brett Kavanaugh was her assailant. So I do believe that she was assaulted. I don't know by whom, and I'm not certain when.
It's the way I've said. I think that something happened to her. What it was, I do not know. I could not explain what happened to her because I was not there. I could not explain any of this. And we will find out, I'm sure, years and years down the road, whether or not something actually happened. A lot of you text me over the weekend. It's why isn't she, because there's no statute of limitation in Maryland. She could go to the police. Why? Because the police they already know what's good they're going to do. They're going to kick it and say, look, there's nothing here we can prosecute. There's nothing here that we can prosecute. That's it. I mean, this became an ugly, ugly situation that got worse and worse, and it really showed, and I think it taught a lot of us what our political divide is right now. How ugly that we right now are being towards one another. And it is crazy how nasty and ugly we are towards one another. Both sides. But the left right now, here's the thing. We are at a point now where we don't see the other side as anything other than they're no longer just wrong. It's no longer that I don't like your politics and you're wrong. It's now you're evil. And that's not a good way. Our founding fathers worried more about what we would do to one another and the fraction that we'd have amongst ourselves that would eventually be the cancer inside of us that would destroy us, more than they worried about anybody else coming here and invading us. And we have a situation right now where we are not just politically divided. We're divided in a way where we're so pissed and angry at one another that we can't even find common ground. And there should be common ground. There should be common ground. But it's not happening. It's not. And this was an ugly situation. And we need to start figuring out how we work our way back into at least being able to deal with one another as human beings and not the red and blue that we see each other.
The Senate's role in our politics is not to just reflect the country, but to help heal and lead the country. And that's the course we should be on.
That's the course we should be on, but I don't know if we're going to get there. Not anytime soon. Social media plays a big part in it, but I think there's a lot of things that go into this right now. And the anger, watching people this weekend, the anger that was out there, not all of it was genuine. You know what? I can say this, and I think most of you saw a lot of these people that were out there. Not all of it was genuine. Some of it was circus. Not everybody was protesting for the same thing. Sometimes people just want to go where cameras are, and they want to get their signs out there, and they want to talk about whatever it is that's pissed them off. I always tell everybody, watch Saturday morning. Watch college football game day, see a lot of the wackos that show up that aren't going to go to the football game, that don't care, but they're there for the spectacle that is. That's a lot of what this was. Some people were genuinely upset. Some people are devastated. And as I talked to a lot of people over the weekend, I'm still trying to figure out exactly the fear factor of what they think is actually going to happen, because they've been whipped up into a frenzy. And this is part of what happens. The Senate should be a place, I don't know, they're not there to heal, right? But they're there to be our leaders in a way that we've sent you there to do a job. We want you to find some commonality with everybody and then do the best job you possibly can. The problem is now they don't even, it's not even about the us in the middle, right? Right? Us, right? The logical left and the reasonable right. It's not even about us. It's about playing to a base that's at times insane and listening to them and allowing them to drive the conversation. And that right there really should piss all of us off. That is not good for anybody, and that's the issue I have right now. We are fractured in a way that we haven't been in a very, very, very long time. And even back in the day, our politicians were fractured, and they would fight with one another, and it really wouldn't get to the point where we got pissed off at each other on a daily basis. We're well past that now. We're well past that. We're driving the anger. And I think at times, because of the anger and because of the tribalism, we're driving some of our politicians to maybe make decisions that they wouldn't normally make based on the fact that they're worried more about the political ramifications and the noise coming from social media than anything else. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. A lot of stuff to get to today. Today is Guilty White People Day. It's Columbus Day. We're going to talk about Columbus. And I got a question for you, a poll question about Columbus, because Columbus to me is very interesting. And where he gets some blame for some of the things he did. Was he really the only one? And are we overlooking it because of our modern sensibility? Who he was. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Plus, where I got it right this weekend, and I got it right big time. I did, and I told you all last week. You can text the program, follow along, go to Chad Benson Show TV on the YouTube as well. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ChadBenson is the Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
Party people. I'm exhausted. It's a weekend. Jack ran me ragged. You know, here's a great thing. And this is one of those things where, and I was reading Jordan Peterson's book, and kids love play, and they need play, rough play. And Jack and I had a weekend where he's still coming off his concussion, and we had a weekend of fun. But we wrestled yesterday, and it was one of those things where, like, that's a memory. Like, for all of the crap that's going on in the world, for all the screaming and the yelling and the fighting and stuff, what mattered was like that. That was everything right there. Plus, producer Phil, we went to the theater, and we'll talk about what I saw later. But do you know what they have at the theater now? Because I don't know what you know. The kids nowadays like spicy things.
What do they got?
They got hot Cheeto popcorn. So you get the hot Cheetos, and then you get a bunch of popcorn with hot Cheeto flavor. And Jack's like, Dad, that's all I want. I'm like, all right. Because kids love that. They love Takis and the hot Cheetos. It was okay. I mean, he loved it, but I was just like, ugh. God, everything. It's like, even like go to Taco Bell. It's like, you just can't have like, can I get a regular taco? What kind of shell do you want? Do you want a Cool Ranch shell? Do you want a Dorito shell? You're like, what? I just want a regular, just like a taco. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. Okay, kids. Each and every day at this time, and a bunch of people are sending me stuff. Hey, Chad, what about this? Have you heard of this? Have you heard this? Feel free to submit your urban words today. Your kids say something. You're like, what does this mean? Or you want to find some of these things out. You can just throw it straight to us. It's simple and easy. You can text the program, 323-538-2423. Tweet it at us, at Chad Benson Show, or check out the old Facebook and send it to us direct message. It's pretty simple. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here is your urban word of the day.
It's time for the urban word of the day, fam.
What? Right now?
Time to get a little more hip on the streets.
I can't understand a word you're saying.
Urban word of the day.
Self-aside. Self-aside. Where you were because last year, I think it was like 200 people that died, some ridiculous amount of people who are doing all they possibly can to take the most amazing selfie. And in doing so, they're putting themselves in situations that are so ridiculous that they're dying. And in fact, I've seen some places around the globe now are telling you cannot take selfies and or even take your phone in certain areas because they're worried that you're going to do something stupid. I think that's more of Darwin's way of saying, you know what, let it be. But self-aside is your urban word of the day.
Thank you for saying that in dated urban slang so that I'll understand you. That there was the urban word of the day. We damn stretched your cranium.
One of the things that we hope to be able to determine is what the speed of the vehicle was at the collision, and I think we have the technology to do that.
So this whole thing with the limo, I mean, was so insane this weekend. So yesterday I'm sitting there and Jack's doing his homework and we're out in the lobby of the hotel relaxing and because we just want to be in the room while he does his homework. And I said, okay, cool. They got a big TV out there. And all of a sudden we see this thing flash. There's 20 people dead. And I thought, wow. So the first thing that came to my mind in this was an 18-wheeler must have hit a limo full of people, right? Or a bus or something like that. Then you found out they ran a stop sign or went through an intersection, crashed. This whole thing is just insane. And the first thing that popped in my mind is nobody was wearing a seatbelt. Because you don't wear a seatbelt in these. You get into a limo, nobody puts on a seatbelt. Because it's a party, it's fun, you're in the back of these big limos, you're hanging out, you're having a good time. And it's weird that that's not enforced. It is weird. Like, people are drinking and they're doing all kinds of stuff. And think about this. If I'm driving, let's say I have a Tahoe or something like that, right? So I got just an SUV. You can't sit in the back and party, right? You can't sit in the far back where there's no seats and just drink and do stuff. But in limos, it's just kind of like, do your thing. And to me, I find it to be weird. Same thing with buses. How school buses or regular bus. How hard is it to put in a seatbelt, right? For everybody's safety. And I'm not worried about, here's always been my thing in situations like that, where there's been on trains and stuff like that. Phil, you take a lot of trains. There's no seatbelts on trains, is there?
Nope, no seatbelts on trains.
Yeah, see, because Phil's weird like that. The seatbelts on airplanes, not on trains. But here's my thing. It's like, I've never been worried about, okay, so if I'm seatbelted, I'm always worried about the person that's not, that's going to come flying into me at 70 miles an hour. But it is odd, right? And you got 20 people dead. 20 people dead. Think about that for a second. That'll probably be the biggest accident of the year as far as mass casualties and the NTSB's there. Airplane, and 20 people. That's how insane that is. 18 in the limo, 2 outside of the limo. Crazy. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. A lot of stuff still to get to today. People are already jockeying for position for 2020, and, well, John Mayer doesn't want you to be an alpha male. What? Yeah, wait till you hear this. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
American is telling employees to think twice before rebooking customers whose flights are delayed or canceled on rival airlines, and instead to wait for a seat on another American flight, no matter how long it might take. That could mean significantly increased wait times, especially for those flying economy. The new policy does make exceptions for passengers traveling to weddings or funerals, or for those who might be stranded overnight with no hotel room.
What in God's name are you doing, American? Here's something for you. So think about this, right? So if you are flying somewhere and you've got to absolutely positively have to be there, American may not be your airline. And I usually fly American, and I've never had any problems. The producer Phil and I were talking about, and we travel a fair bit, that you've only, in all of your flights, you've only ever one issue where you've missed a connecting flight. And I haven't missed a connecting flight, but I have missed I had a flight delayed overnight. But I couldn't imagine like this edict coming down saying, hey, if screw everybody, if they don't like it, they can shove off. You've already paid for something. And isn't that just like the common courtesy is to get you, the whole thing is to get you from point A to point B at a certain time. Understanding weather and things like that play into it. But could you imagine in this day and age of all of the social media to be able to, because by the time you're sitting there and they're telling you, oh, by the way, we can't get you on a flight. What if there's because some of these smaller routes, right? Sometimes they'd only fly once every day, once every 2 or 3 days. Could you imagine being stuck somewhere for a couple days and they're telling you to kick rocks? Oh, my goodness. That's to me, we'll see what happens. That's awful, though. You got to do better than that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. I love hearing from you. A lot of you are chiming in right now about the limo and what took place and why you're asking the same questions. I don't know. I don't know why that there isn't seatbelts required and things like that. Because maybe there is, and it's just one of those things that's ignored, right? Like cops got better things to do than a bunch of partying people. But it is nuts to think that there is no seatbelts and 20 people died. I mean, 20 people died. 2 of them were not in the limo, but 20 people died because of this. And it is absolutely crazy. And they're looking at all kinds of things when it comes to what happened. And now there's weird stuff coming out about this guy. So apparently the guy who runs the company, he's had some issues.
Shahid Hussein used to be an FBI informant who testified in 2 terrorism cases, including one involving an alleged plot to blow up a synagogue in the Bronx. He became an informant in 2002 after he was caught helping immigrants cheat on driver's tests while he worked at the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. The state is now trying to shut down Prestige Limo until the investigation into the deadly crash in Schoharie is complete.
Yeah, I think they should shut it down. I absolutely do. And I looked at it, the limo, and it looks banged up and it looks nasty, obviously, but it doesn't look like I thought it was going to be a fiery, destructive mess where there was nothing left, and it was just nothing, and it didn't. It's crazy. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. We have a question of the day, and it is about Christopher Columbus, and this world that we live in now of retro rage, and there is a world of retro rage that we live in, where we look at you know our modern world. It's a perfect example where we look at our modern world and we think that everybody, people in the in the early 1900s, in the mid 1900s, should live like us today, woke. We look at the people in the 1800s, you guys should have been woke, in the 1700s, and so on and so on. And when I look at Christopher Columbus and the craziness that surrounds this now, you know, he's evil, he's horrible, he's awful. I'm like, I don't think people understand what he was in his day, right? You don't understand what he was in his day. Well, yes, I do, Chad. I understand all of things. He was a monster. He was a horrible human being. He was a meanie. And I'm like, you don't get who he was. He was Neil Armstrong before Neil Armstrong. He got to go places because he said, I'll take the risk. Somebody funds what I'm doing, I'm going to take the risk. I will do it. If you're willing to throw some cash at this, I'm going to go. If you're willing to put money into this, I will do it. So what was he? What do you think he was? Was he a monster? Was he a hero? Was he a bit of both? And I think in some ways he probably was a bit of both, but I will say I believe he was more hero of his day than monster. And how much of that monster is because of the fear of the unknown more than anything else? I think a lot. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. So far, 49% of you said hero for his day, 13% monster, 38% say bit of both. Take the poll question at Chad Benson Show. It's simple and easy. So it is a world that we live in now where everybody is running for something. Case in point, this weekend, everybody's in Des Moines, Iowa this week. What are they doing? They're getting themselves ready for, yes, kids, 2020.
That we would be a nation that put forward values and ideals that would serve as light unto other nations, that we would be a nation that savors freedom and justice and equality. And don't get me wrong.
That's Cory Booker. Now, don't get him wrong, because this is where the retro rage starts to come in.
I'm not going to sort of whitewash and homogenize our founders. They were geniuses, but imperfect men. I know that our founding documents had some...
Had some what, Corey? They had some issues. right? Issues. And this is that retro race, like we were just talking about with Columbus, where people are angry because of Columbus. Why should we celebrate a man who killed all these people? Why should we celebrate a man who did the things that he did? Why should we celebrate? When you step back and say, let's look at him in his world, in his day. Take the steps in his shoes. Understand the world they live in his day. Don't look at it from our woke social world that we live in now, where we're with it, right? Let's take a look at it. And that includes all of our past. And the changing of past and this revisionist history, I don't think is good. And the always bringing up how awful we were.
Revelations about the bigotries and prejudice of the time. Native Americans in our Declaration of Independence are referred to as savages. Women aren't referred to at all. African American slaves were considered fractions of human beings.
Yeah, they were. Again, I'm not saying that didn't happen. I think absolutely those are things that we have to talk about. Absolutely they happened. But it's the revisionist history of understanding what the time was. Do realize that in 100 years, our grandkids will look back and think, God, Grandpa was awful. Grandma was awful. They weren't woke like we were. Look at the stuff they use, their computers. Those things are awful. Oh, my goodness. They didn't have computer eyes or computer brains. They're going to look back at us the way that, but the difference is are they going to rewrite history, which I feel a lot of people are doing. And today's a perfect example, because every year at this time, there is this insanity of, hey, guess what? Columbus is evil. Because, it's the hip thing to do, right? It's the hip thing to do. Because there's always this hipster thing to do I've got to be contrarian. Like if you stood up at a college campus today and said, I have no problem with Columbus. I understand what he was for the time. Because of it, they don't want you, they want you to have our sensibilities back in there. That's the whole moving of the goalpost thing, right? It's the whole moving of the goalpost. Let's move the goalpost. This is the way he should have been, but he wasn't. But he should have been this way, but he wasn't. And nobody in his day was. Nobody in his day was woke. He took a risk that very few people would even dream of taking. And everybody's like, you're going to die. You're going to fall off the earth. I mean, that's how crazy it was. And he's like, screw it. We're doing it. Some people said the earth was round. Some of you still said it was flat. He's like, we're doing it. We don't know what we're going to face either. And this is a perfect example of what not knowing what to face is. It's always the little things they never tell you about space, right? So what did they do to originally when we started sending people out in space? They would give them something as a just in case. And it was never for if it went wrong. It was like they used to say, it was always for the things that they couldn't anticipate for. Like what if you did run into something and you didn't want to be caught? You didn't know what it was. But we have this revisionist history, and it's hilarious the way that we look at these same college kids that'll look at me and say Christopher Columbus was horrible will be standing there wearing a Che Guevara shirt. And you're just like, because that's all you can do. Because you can't reason with somebody like that. It was very interesting. But yes, Cory Booker and many others are running for president of the United States, and you got to get to Des Moines, and that's where you got to go. Got to get to Des Moines. Isn't it weird? It's like Des Moines. It's like you got to get to Iowa. New Hampshire and Iowa, you got to get there first. Who's going to be there first? Me! 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. Got Chad Benson Show TV on the old YouTubes there. We're doing a lot more stuff as we expand the show, expand the program, online, television, the whole 9 yards. We're doing it. We want you to be a part of it. Feel free to text the program. Always feel free to chime in on the interwebs. We love hearing from you. And I try to answer everybody back I possibly can. As the show started to grow, it gets a little bit tougher, but I do try to reach out to everybody as best I possibly can. And it is me, because people say, I have a lot of friends in this business, some who are extremely large in this business, and they have people that do stuff for them, but that's not me. This is my name. It's my show. I want to be the one who handles that, so I try to get back to everybody as a timely fashion as I possibly can. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Okay. It's that time of year, getting towards Halloween, and you got Thanksgiving and Christmas. On top of that, still some birthdays out there, maybe some anniversaries. Kids have a lot of stuff going on at school. You maybe have messed up. You're looking around and you're saying to yourself, I need to do something good for the love of my life. What, oh, what can I do? 1-800-Flowers, that's what. 1-800-Flowers.com is amazing. It's my go-to. Sometimes just because, and other times because, that's right. We all know what the is. Now, this is what they're doing for $29.99. You're going to get a dozen red or multicolored roses, right, for $29.99. And on top of that, they're going to throw in another dozen plus a vase absolutely free. Boom. Choose between an amazing assortment of multicolored or reds. Perfect for birthdays, anniversaries, screw-ups. Just because, nothing wrong with that. Ladies, guys like getting flowers too. We're like, yeah. Don't say that guys don't, because we all do, right? I'm an equal opportunity flower getter and giver. Just want you to know that. Call 1-800-Flowers.com. Simple and easy. Or go to 1-800-Flowers.com. And when you do, use my code Benson. So this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet and a vase for $29.99. Simple and easy. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com. Click on the radio icon right up there in the corner. Enter Benson, B-E-N-S-O-N. That's 1-800-Flowers.com. Code Benson, 1-800-Flowers.com. Code Benson. Oh, you'll be happy you did. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. C-H-A-D-B-E-N-S-O-N. I saw a movie this weekend, and did Mickey Mouse ruin somebody's engagement? What? Chad Benson Show.
Welcome to the Alt-Middle, where solutions live and ignorance dies. The Chad Benson Show.
We just had a very nice talk. We actually get along. And really good talk.
From Rod Rosenstein. We're pals now. Did you guys know that? You guys know that? We're like besties. I mean, I'm not saying we're like going to go like hang out all the time, but I mean, we're friends, It's okay. We're friends, if that's what you're asking. So, and why this is important is because when all of the stuff with Kavanaugh happened to explode, there, of course, was this thing with Rod Rosenstein that he had mentioned to some people that he needed to maybe pretend. He said it was a joke, evoking the 25th Amendment and trying to get Trump, taken out of office and stuff. He said it was a joke, and he never said that. Some people stood behind him. But then Kavanaugh blew up, and it slowly but surely dissipated. But now that that's gone, out comes this again. They hung out there. We didn't really hang out. We didn't know much about each other, but we hung out today. And it's okay. It's okay. It is. We're pals. I think we're going to be pals. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Movies this weekend. I went and saw one, and I've got an observation.
Forget the bad reviews. The Tom Hardy anti-hero flick Venom debuted with an estimated $80 million, taking first place and smashing the $55.7 million previous October opening record set by Gravity 5 years ago.
Do you write songs or anything?
I don't sing my own songs.
Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper's A Star Is Born also exceeding estimates with a $41.2 million domestic opening. Good enough for second.
Yeah, I went and saw Venom. I took Jack to see Venom this weekend, and we had a really good time. I enjoyed it. But DC just doesn't make superhero movies like Marvel's superhero movies are awesome. DC movies are okay, right? Like they're okay-ish, right? Like I enjoyed the Suicide Squad. I know a lot of other people maybe didn't. I kind of like it. I'm interested to see what they do with Aquaman and how that may go. They're not great comparatively to Marvel. Marvel outshines them. I liked Venom, but I just kept saying, God, I feel like that Marvel has better stuff. Like, hey, these guys are all really good at the CGI stuff, and it's amazing what they can do. Where I look at Venom and I look at some of the DC stuff and I think, I feel like you guys don't really have it. You don't understand it. Now, I enjoyed Venom. I thought it could have been better, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was exactly what I wanted. It gave me a couple hours not having to think about Kavanaugh and all this craziness. But my only issue besides that was I just thought Tom Hardy looked drunk all the time. Like he looked a mess in the movie. And the shots that they took at Silicon Valley were amazing because it really was, they said last week that a lot of people think it was a Elon Musk was the bad guy, and it kind of was, right? He kind of was, but it was kind of Elon Musk, kind of Mark Zuckerberg, kind of, Sergey Brin and the other guys all kind of rolled into one. And like the thing that made me, I was sitting there going, oh yeah, it's got to be totally like that. Not so much, turning people into stuff, but watching the security, I was thinking to myself, you have a better chance of probably getting into Fort Knox than you probably do breaking into certain places in Silicon Valley. Things like the Alphabet Group and Google and some of the stuff that they're doing, that next level stuff, the chances of you getting into there, oh, God, slim to none. It's insane. It is insane. But all in all, I thought it was an okay movie. I did. But I just think DC, they're missing something. It just feels like a cheap version. Like it's one step above the Sci-Fi Network, and like Marvel stuff is a million times better. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Check out Chad Benson Show TV. That is on the old YouTubes. We got the Instagram as well. Finsta, I think the kids call it nowadays. Chad Benson Show. Kids, we got it everywhere. Skywriting coming soon to a theater near you and maybe your house, because we might crash the plane right into your house. How about that, right? Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
It was a great honor to be involved in this situation. A lot of people would have said, oh, let's give it up, let's go a different direction. We don't give up. You don't give up. We don't give up. Just don't do it.
Just don't give up. Don't ever give up. Trump right there, and of course the ceremonial swearing in. So he's already been sworn in. But then they have the big pomp and circumstance one where everybody stands around and they clap, and this is when all of the justices arrive, and that's going on. And again, a lot of people over the weekend. I heard this word asterisk so much. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It's gonna have an asterisk by his name. It's gonna have an asterisk by his name. No, he's not. You can say what you want. I mean, this is it. He is the Supreme Court justice. It's not going anywhere. It's not. I heard. Well, we'll impeach him. Let's impeach him. It's not easy to impeach. It is not, kids. It is not. Cory Booker came out and said we're not taking impeachment away. It is tough to impeach. First of all, you need 67 votes. So unless something massive happens, it's just not going to happen. It's just not. It is not going to happen. He's not going anywhere. And between now and Friday, things will happen. Trump will do something. Pompeo's just come back from North Korea. They've had good talks. There's going to be some other stuff. Trump will shoot off a bunch of tweets. It'll piss some people off. And we're on to something else. And we're just 28 days away from, the midterms. So there's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. I don't think he'll be an afterthought. I think he'll be on some people's mind of why they're going there, because they're energized over this and they see the fight over this. But the reality is he's not going to be impeached. It is not going to happen. And I'm not talking about President Trump, because you can impeach a justice. It's happened like 5 times since the mid 80s. And all of them were convicted of crimes before they were eventually removed from there. And not the Supreme Court justice. We're talking about district judges and things like that. It's just not going to happen. It isn't. And over the weekend, it was, let me tell you something. Over the weekend, it was nuts. It was absolutely chaos everywhere. And I don't know if this is the new way we live with the way that people are acting. And you can look at things like, I mean, you go out there and you look at Maxine Waters and the things that she has said in the past and the way that people were getting inside of people's faces and how much of that was real and emotional and it was a snap moment and how much of that was orchestrated. And this to me is just, it's weird.
We were literally under assault. These demonstrators, I'm sure some of them were well-meaning citizens, but many of them were obviously trained to get in our faces, to go to our homes up there, to basically almost attack us in the halls.
Yeah. And I think it's uncomfortable. And while there was a lot of people there this weekend, and I always try to tell everybody this, look, you see chaos. Think about how many people live in the country. How many people were out protesting this weekend? Were there 300 million people in the streets? No. Was there 500,000 in the streets? Probably not. Maybe 100,000? It's possible, right? I don't know how many were at the Capitol. What did you think was at the Capitol, producer Phil? How many do you think?
A couple of hundred, maybe.
Yeah, see, I mean, it wasn't, but the cameras were there, and it was all of these things, and people, and there was the anger, and there was a story to tell, and it was a story that played politically in the way that people thought. Think about 20 people died in a limo accident yesterday. And how much time did that get? Not a lot, right? Like, not a lot, because there wasn't the politics behind it. There wasn't the politics behind this insanity at times, and we push because this is far more must-see TV than anything else. It really is. And so, let's say you have 5,000 there and you got 1,000 here and 500 there across some, marches across some of those, it's just the zoo-like atmosphere that brings people out. Some of it is. Some of it's not. And, these people that voted the way that they did, they're going to have to, some of them will pay the price at the ballot box. Some of them are going to pay the price. Some of them aren't. Some of them are doubling down. Case in point, a woman that who a lot of people are blaming single-handedly for the reason he's on the court, which is not true. But she's taking the blame, and who I thought Susan Collins delivered an amazing speech on Friday that in that 45 minutes, she summed up pretty much everything. That was a Cliff Notes version of everything we needed to know.
I don't think she was coming forth with a political motive, although I do not think that she was treated well by those who breached her confidence.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But she's being blamed single-handedly. She's not the one to blame for this, right? She's not the one to blame for this nightmare. This fighting. And the new CNN poll that's out right now is just, and it's about Kavanaugh, and it is, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, wow. 52% of Americans disapprove about the way this thing was handled. Both sides took a massive, massive, massive hit. But here's something else to think about. Here are 3 people, and they asked the 1,000 or so people that they called and did the research on, what do you think of these people? Amy Klobuchar, right? What do you think of her, right? Favorable opinion, 16%. Unfavorable opinion, 11%. Never heard of, 55%. Lindsey Graham, favorable, 31. Unfavorable, 37. Never heard of, 20. Jeff Flake, 24. Unfavorable, 30. Never heard of, 31%. A lot of what that shows me, especially in the never heard of section of things, is people overthink the room. We think that these people are mega stars because we follow politics. They're not. Lindsey Graham could walk into most malls in America. He'd be the only one there because nobody goes to a mall. But you understand where I'm going with this. The reality is outside of that little snapshot of politics in that beltway, most of these people, unless they've run for president, are nameless and faceless, right? You couldn't name them. With the 435 in the House, who's the 100 senators, minus a few of them that have some name recognition, because either they've run for president or they've been around so long and they play a major part of being in front of the camera 24/7. Most people would know who they were. And I think we forget that, and we allow ourselves to, and we get this craziness, and we builds up and stuff. But this was an ugly past 2 weeks, and I don't think any of us, if we step back, could honestly say that good was done by America and for America by this. I don't think it was. I really don't. I think if we step back for a second and we say to ourselves, did we do ourselves justice here? I don't think we did. I don't think either side did. I think both sides are pointing fingers at it and say they were worse and they were worse and you were worse and they were worse. And the reality is I think both sides were really a mess in this. And I think the way they handled things at times, I think the left in particular was just awful. I think the right could have done things a lot better. And like usual, it's the messaging and the way they delivered their message at times falls on deaf ears. Oh, sad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. We'll talk about Gorsuch and how he was put on, and Sotomayor and Kagan and them, and what were their first few cases like, and what could we expect from Kavanaugh and where we're headed, and how that could really play into us moving forward, and how the actual court itself can play a big part in maybe calming the nation down. You can text the program 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. So I thought I took my pillow with me this weekend, my pillow, and I didn't. And oh my God, it was just the worst nights of sleep I have ever had in forever. I feel jet lagged at times, and it wasn't good. Jack didn't bring his head hurt. It was not a good weekend. I'm so sorry, my pillow. I can't wait to sleep tonight after all my travels. I need that. What I'm telling you is small little things like this can go a long way with your sleep. And the thing you do when you sleep well is you help everything out, from weight loss and maintaining your weight to little things like this, kids, heart health, right? Blood pressure, things of that nature, which are vitally important in your life. So what are you waiting for? It's 100% machine washable and dryable, made in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. And this is what they're doing right now. It's a BOGO. You buy one, you get one free. Call 800-944-4975 or go to mypillow.com. When you do, use the promo code Benson, BENSON. 2 pillows for the price of one. Get a better night's rest. It is the world's most comfortable pillow. BOGO. Buy one, get one free. mypillow.com, promo code Benson, or call 800-944-4975. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
And you don't think that Brett Kavanaugh did anything wrong?
Listen, I think it's important to believe women until it's time to stop. But I also believe that, I'm a guy's gal, okay? I can party with the big dogs and whoop, whoop. We're going to have fun tonight.
Woo! That's our girl! Our one girl!
Yeah.
Oh, that was Saturday Night Live, who just absolutely, they had this hilarious, like it was a locker room party zone for Kavanaugh and the whole 9 yards, champagne. It was like they had won the World Series. And a lot of people were angry about that. And look, here's my thing. I don't watch Saturday Night Live because they're just not funny. It's just not. I mean, it hasn't been funny since Turd Ferguson. I mean, it's just, to me, I don't find it to be entertaining. And I don't mind that stuff gets political, but the way that comedy used to be, especially in shows like this, like Johnny Carson did not care who you were. If you were in power, you were going to face Johnny's wrath. Saturday Night Live was the same way at times. It's not that way anymore. I said over the weekend, it's an activist, improv group that is barely watchable. And it's sad. It is sad because you've got this platform that's great. And I don't mind that you hammer one side. The problem is that's all you do. When you have chances to go after the other side, you don't do it. And as a person who looks at this and says, I can laugh at both sides. I can laugh at the right. I can laugh at the left. I thought what they did there with Susan Collins was hilarious.
Do you feel like this is a win you can be proud of?
Oh, hell yeah, Dana.
Republicans read the mood of the country, and we could tell that people really wanted Kavanaugh. Everyone's pumped, from white men over 60 to white men over 70. We did it. Big up to PJ and Squee.
Put this victory in context.
Oh, it's up there with Vietnam for sure.
But it's I don't know. Like, see, this is the way, if I would have done this, is a perfect example of how they missed the opportunity, right? And this is where you are able to bring, because I think this is where comedy can bridge the gap of this giant chasm that we have between us right now. Where, and producer Phil, you know this, you watch sports as much as I do. Everybody fights to be in the winning locker room. Nobody wants to go to the losing locker room where it's quiet and nobody's saying anything after the Super Bowl or the NBA championship or any of these things and talk about, you know, what happened last night. Well, you know, it's just one of those things. And it would have been hilarious if they would have went over and threw it to somebody else at the other side of the locker room and they could have been talking to people in the other locker room, which I don't care about the balance. It just would have been funny. And they didn't do it. They failed to do it. And that's my issue with comedy. It's like there's a perfect opportunity. Nobody wants to be in the losing locker room if you're a reporter. Unless, of course, you don't want your suit messed up. Right? You don't want your tie messed up. You don't want your, you know, if you're a woman, you don't want to be drenched. And like both sides, it's hilarious. They fight. You got to put on the goggles and the whole 9 yards. And they could have gone further with it, and they didn't. They didn't. I would have had Mitch McConnell. Just they would have poured Gatorade on him like the big thing. It would have been so much more entertaining. But they failed to do that. And I don't get it. I watched some of that, but comedy's one of those things though where I look at something like Saturday Night Live and I say to myself, you are appealing to New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, maybe Seattle. The rest of the country, you don't care about. You're not interested in anything other than that. Period. Case closed. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. I love to hear from you. Bill Maher over the weekend talked a bit about this whole situation with Kavanaugh.
And there are social justice warriors who are crazy enough in this country, I fight with them all the time, who they lend enough credence to this to make people think, oh, you know what? They're going to go after my high school record. That's fair game now. And it becomes sort of a privacy thing.
Yeah, it does. The high school record now, what he was talking about? Absolutely. The social justice warriors, 110%. While they're not as big as we make them out to be, the issue is we give them way too much power in this day and age. And he talked about the whole believe thing.
It does seem like things have morphed from listen to any woman who says she's been wronged, which is the right thing to do, to automatically believe.
Here's the nuance.
That's what's scary.
Here's what Republicans
Yes, that's what's scary. Believe, period. We don't need due process. We don't need a trial. We don't need anything. You just make the accusation, and that enough alone is to be believed 100%, and due process and everything is out the window. And I don't think that's good for anybody. And I think that's what Susan Collins tried to say the other night about Kavanaugh and dare I say any of the stuff that goes on anymore with social justice warriors, because you only have to hear a tidbit of a story to formulate your opinion. And then you run with that, even if it's taken out of context, even if it's a whatever is said or whatever happens. We just run with it automatically. And we pay no attention to the rest of it because you're not interested in the full story, the facts and the data. You're interested in affirmation of your belief. And if you can find a nugget, you're going to run with it. Sad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Let's talk about what took place over the weekend, shall we? Just a smidge. There were a fight. How did it go? Kind of got ugly. It did. And I'm not talking about the fight. I'm talking about the fight after the fight. Text the program. Love hearing from you. You can tweet at us as well at Chad Benson Show. Follow us on the old Instagram. 'Tis the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
independent in thought, and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This morning, the NTSB investigating the country's deadliest transportation accident in nearly a decade. 18 people inside a limo killed when officials say it barreled through an intersection in upstate New York, plowing into a crowded restaurant parking lot, slamming into an empty SUV, striking and killing 2 bystanders before landing in a wooded area. In total, 20 people died.
Absolutely insane. 20 people died in this limo. If this was a shooting and there was an AR-15, it would be nonstop. But politically, there's nothing here, right? There's no story. You can't spin it. It's just a tragedy. So you got to step back and go, oh, well, this is just awful. Here's my question. Why don't we have seatbelts in these things? Or buses? Right? I mean, I know it sounds like, that'd be uncomfortable. And the whole thing getting a limo is somebody else is driving and you're partying and having fun. I get that. But if I'm driving a car, people in the back can't not have seatbelts on. Right? I mean, it is weird. Like, we let you party in the back of a limo. Let's do all of these. We let you have a bar in the back of a limo. We don't let you have a bar in the back of your car. Even if you're not drinking, we don't let you have a bar. We don't let you. I'm curious about this. And I think that they're going to look at this, and it's a horrible thing. 20 people are dead. 20 people. Think about that.
Barbara Douglas tells ABC News her 4 nieces, Amy, Abigail, Mary, and Allison, were among the passengers riding in a 2001 Stretch Ford Excursion when it crashed.
I had 4 nieces. They're all dead.
One of the sisters, Amy, had just gotten married earlier this summer to her husband, Axel Steenberg. Their uncle says they're the ones who rented the limo to keep the group safe.
That did not work. And now there's something coming out about the limo company, and this is really interesting, and an FBI informant. Check this out.
Shahid Hussein used to be an FBI informant who testified in 2 terrorism cases, including one involving an alleged plot to blow up a synagogue in the Bronx. He became an informant in 2002 after he was caught helping immigrants cheat on driver's tests while he worked at the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. The state is now trying to shut down Prestige Limo until the investigation into the deadly crash in Schoharie is complete.
Yeah, so that's that. So there's another twist. What do you bet Trump gets blamed for this? The FBI's involved. But isn't it? I mean, if you think about the more I thought about this, because I drove a lot this weekend, and I mean, it's you're driving and you think about something like this that took place. 20 people lost their lives. Where's the story in it? Right? It was breaking news for 30 seconds, but then it was back to Kavanaugh and all this other stuff because there wasn't a gun involved. There wasn't any. There's nothing that news can get out and spin that particular big establishment news can make the Republicans look bad. So the question was, why don't we have seatbelts? Why don't we have certain things? Because I looked at the limo and it was beat the hell up. But I also thought to myself, what else happened? I mean, why don't we have those? Same thing with buses, right? Same thing with you know, a lot of these things that you transport people in. Why don't you have these things? I mean, you should have these things. Well, it's not fun then, man. Oh, I get that. Because people are partying and having fun. I get that. But you can't do that in the back of my car. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I have a Tahoe, right? Or something like that. You can't drink in the back of my car and party it up and not wear a seatbelt. If I got pulled over, that's some serious issues. But they kind of overlook this, that kind of weird little world of, I think it's a fair question. And when you have 20 people die, like that is, and 18 of them in the limo and 2 outside of this, I think it's a very serious question. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Today is Columbus Day.
In a 2-sentence press release, Columbus, Ohio, a city of more than 800,000 people named after Christopher Columbus, announced its offices are open for business on Columbus Day. The city spokesperson says the decision was made not due to concerns posed by Native American groups, but rather because the city can't afford to give workers both Columbus Day and Veterans Day off this fall. Last year, Akron, Ohio, failed to rename Columbus Day. After 2 previous failed attempts, Cincinnati renamed Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, because Columbus Columbus was a bad dude. I mean, that's the essential side of it. Columbus, as far as people are concerned politically, it's a horrible human being because he came here and he killed untold millions and he brought disease and all of these things with him, and he's just an evil person. And it's very interesting the way that people come at this. Because we take our modern sensibility, right? So we're woke now. We're such a woke society. You see how woke we are with everything? Equality, all of this stuff, the way it is, the quality of outcome is where we're headed. Everybody's getting stuff. Everybody's great. If you believe in this, then you're a great person. If you believe on this side, you're some sort of phobic, which I never really understood. And I got into a huge argument with somebody over the weekend when people were saying you're transphobic and homophobic. And I'm like, I'm not scared of any of those people. Why would you think that? I think you're getting it wrong. But it's funny the way that we approach this, because I look at it like I can decompartmentalize times, right? Like I can look at this day and age and say, I'm going to put this over here in this thing. Let's break this down and let's look at this. In his day, which is not today, right? Which was 500 plus years ago. In his day, he was a baller. In his day, he was the Neil Armstrong of his day. We're going to try to open up new trade routes. We're doing all kinds of stuff. Look at the way we're going. Check this out. Like a lot of those people back in those days, Magellan and all of these people. It was a dangerous thing, right? So in his day, he was a baller. Did he understand that he was going to bring with him diseases that natives in their, indigenous people in the areas that they were at were going to die? No, for God's sakes. Come on now. Come on. We understood that. My God, we sent our people to the moon, right? And I think First Man opens this week. It's a perfect example of it. So we sent them up there to the moon, right? We had sent, the Russians beat us to space, and then we were there. And what's the first thing they do? They take these guys and they put them in areas where they can't contaminate anything, because the last thing they want is some sort of weird superbug. We get that now. They didn't have that kind of modern technology. They didn't. They were just a little bit behind. But the way that, was he a bad dude? At times he was. But they were also, we are coming at things like this in our modern sensibility of we're politically correct, we're woke, we understand all of these things and blah, 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 blah. And we look at him and we say it's bad because we look at all of our, it's not just Columbus. I mean, look at what they're doing in schools now when they're getting rid of people because, well, in this day and age, He was for slavery, or he owned slaves, and we go back and we start picking apart things. And that to me is ridiculous. It really is. You have to be able to look at this and say, I can look at you in a way where I can understand in your day and age who you were, what you were about. And in that day and age, in that time that you live, that's how things were done. And I don't think you're a bad person or anything. I just think you are who you are in that day and age. You don't think 100 years from now, people are going to look back at us and think how stupid we are? They're going to look at computers and go, oh, my God, they had to play on computers? Oh, jeez, wow, they didn't have special eyeballs that became computers? Oh, God, how did they live? Right? How did they live? Of course they are. Absolutely. But people can't do that nowadays. They can't take a situation because the goalposts move and politically correct. We all want to be woke, and we're trying to rewrite our history and erase certain things and erase people and erase the things they did for the world because they don't like who they were based on the time that we live now. And you just can't do that, right? You just can't do that. And if anybody should understand that, it's people who like sports, right? Like, this is a perfect example of always trying to compare sports eras, right? Like, oh, this era was so much better than this era and that era, and they fight it all the time. But they don't want to take away any of those eras. They just want, talk about how great we just want to erase all the history. Could you imagine back today going, let's get rid of Babe Ruth altogether, right? Baseball has one of the most infamous human beings that ever played Major League Sports. Ty Cobb was a racist, anti-Semitic, Awful human being. He beat up a one-armed black groundskeeper, and when his wife came to help, he beat her up. He shot a man. He was awful. But people could look at him and go, you know what? Yeah, okay, but we're not going to get rid of all the things he did out there. But we want to do that now. We want to erase, and history is where we are now. We want to erase our founding fathers. We want to erase all of these things. And it's funny because, having lived in Europe and done all this stuff, they look at we look at our history. And we're shamed, and we talk about how horrible we are, and we go all these things. And in Europe, when I was there, they didn't do that. They touched a little bit about that, but they didn't want to rewrite it. Now, their snowflakey world is starting to try to do stuff like that, and you're seeing a lot of that, especially in Britain. But it's amazing because we have this generation that wants to rewrite history, wants to get rid of everybody, and we want to look and say, we were so bad here, let's just erase all of this together. Let's just do that. We can't look at it as this was their time, this is who they were. We can't do that anymore. Now it's just you're evil. And I find that to be ridiculous. I don't think Christopher Columbus was anything other than a man who had some cojones to say, give me a couple boats, go take 3 of those, give me some men, give me some money, we're going to go do this, right? Some of you still think we're going to fall off the earth, right? That's just it. Some of you flat earthers out there think we're going to fall off the earth. I'm going to show you guys that's not going to happen. Never understanding the ramifications long term. And it's so funny because some people are like, well, look what he did. If he didn't come here, somebody else would have. Right? It's like people think if Elvis wouldn't have come along, right? Like that we would never have found rock and roll. Wouldn't have happened. Wrong. It would have. Somebody else would have come. And maybe that somebody would have been a horrible human being. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say what?
I've been working hard for 18 years to build the sport. And many of you, I know there's a lot of media here tonight, and some of you, this is your first event. I can promise you this is not what a mixed martial arts event is normally like.
Say what? Dana White right there. And if you didn't watch this weekend the UFC, it was a massive night, right? Here is their golden boy, Conor McGregor, back after 2 years of not being in the ring. Conor McGregor in the ring against Khabib, and Khabib whooped his ass. Wasn't even close. It wasn't. One round, I think, went to him, but the other 3 rounds, including the round he tapped out on, it wasn't even close. And you could see, it looked like that, Conor was done and dusted. And I said, there's going to be fights inside the ring and outside the ring. The minute the fight was over, Khabib jumped out of the ring and attacked part of Conor's crew. Some of Khabib's people ran in and punched Conor. 3 were arrested. Out of the 3 that were arrested, none of them will be seeing the inside of a court because Conor's like, he doesn't want to press charges. It was an ugly lead up into this fight, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Conor said a lot of horrible things about Khabib and his family, his religion, his country. And of course, you had the whole incident where he threw the dolly into the. It was ridiculous, and a lot of people thought, you know what, this is payback for a lot of this.
I don't understand how people can talk about I jump on the cage. What about he talk about my religion? He talk about my country. He talk about my father. He come to Brooklyn and he broke bus. He almost killed a couple people. What about this?
Yeah. Well, here's one thing. I think for when you look at this, for Khabib and a lot of these guys, that Conor's a showman. He's absolutely a showman. And he sells fights. There's a reason that people are getting the money they get to fight Conor McGregor, and he only now has the opportunity to take big fights. He didn't want to do anything else. It's not worth it for him to get out of bed. And this whole thing turned out to be a massive night. Now, fans weren't hurt. These were UFC people on UFC people, and it definitely got ugly. They don't like each other. Conor trash talks, but Conor sells, and that's the point. He sells. But for some of these guys, this is, in many ways, kind of like a religion. This is a life for them. The fighting, the martial arts, all of these kind of things. For Conor, it was a way out, and he's now made lots of money, and he's a showman, and he sells tickets.
It's not people. I think it's media. Media a little bit changed MMA. This is a respect sport, you know. This is not trash talking sport. This is respect. So like I told you before, guys, I want to change this game. I don't want people talk about like opponents, talk about his father, like religion. You cannot talk about religion. You cannot talk about nation. You know, guys, you cannot talk about this stuff. And, you know, this is, for me, is very important.
And that's what it was. It was very, very important for Khabib and for Conor McGregor. It was a fight. It was an opportunity to fight somebody. I said I didn't think he had a chance, and he didn't. He looked like a little ring rust. He hadn't been fighting for 2 years. And when he did fight, it was Mayweather. It was boxing, was something totally different. And it was ugly. And they're trying to get this into the Olympics. They're trying to do a lot of things with this. It wasn't a great night, but it was an amazing night. Yeah, this was awful. It was horrible. But behind the scenes, like, this is amazing. People are going to be talking about this on Monday. People are going to be talking about this on the water cooler. People are going to be talking about this online. It was a huge night for that. But I also think that sometimes some of these people take this thing in a serious way, where I think Conor is playing a game. And does he go too far? Yeah. And did this guy want to prove a point? Absolutely. But did it sell? Did it bring in butts and put him in the crowd? Biggest crowd ever at T-Mobile for a UFC fight. It was over 21,000 paid or something like that. Massive numbers done in box office. They're going to make huge money out of this. So in the end, it worked, like it or not. I don't think these guys like each other that much. I'm just saying, I think that there's a selling the ticket side that people forget. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I don't want to sell you anything. I want to give you something. A free membership for a year to AMAC. 40% off movie tickets, 40% off Disneyland, Disney World, SeaWorld, Legoland, Six Flags, just to name a few. Restaurant, retail, hotel, travel discounts, plenty of them. And oh, by the way, they're going to go out there and advocate on your behalf for great things like common sense immigration reform, Medicare reform, things of that nature. What are you waiting for? It's not costing you anything. They don't even want your credit card. All you have to do is be over 50. That's it. Over 50, boom, you're in. What do you have to do? Go to amac.us/Chad. That's amac, AMAC.us/Chad, or call 888-355-1668. That's 888-355-1668. It's a 1-year free membership. It's on me. amac.us/Chad. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ChadBenson. You can tweet at me. Love hearing from you. Check out all the stuff we got going on in the old social media world. There's a plenty of it, including Chad Benson Show TV. We're starting to ramp things up. We're doing a lot here. We want you to be a part of it. We love hearing from you. Don't be shy. Feel free to text us whenever you want. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent in thought and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
We were literally under assault. These demonstrators, I'm sure some of them were well-meaning citizens, but many of them were obviously trained to get in our faces, to go to our homes up there, to basically almost attack us in the halls.
It was ugly. Politics has become an ugly thing. It's a full contact sport. It used to be a small group of people were involved in the full contact sport that is politics. Now it is a large group of people, and not all of them are there because they believe in something. Some of them are paid to be there. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't happen. It absolutely happens. It's about the numbers. Can we make enough noise to get people there? But a lot of them were there, and they were good. They were fine. And some of it's a circus, right? This whole thing, some of it is a giant circus. It's not real, right? Not everything you see out there is real. Some of it is just a circus. It's a look at me. Look at me. But both sides have been this way. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. Does it get bigger? Is it getting bigger? Are we becoming more tribal than ever? That I do think we are.
There are a lot of people who feel very, very strongly, and the Republicans seem to forget what happened during the passage of the Affordable Care Act, where, believe me, the Democrats were the focus and the brunt of screams, coffins being left on our doorsteps.
Yeah, I remember that. It was ugly, right? Not all of it was. Here's the thing. I think the difference between this is the way that things are going now is people were pissed about it, and they were angry about it. Obamacare. And I think you can make an argument that which one's affected people more. If Kavanaugh's been on there for day and a half. And he's not heard a case, and we'll get to that in a second. Where Obamacare, we've seen the ramifications of that. For some, it worked out okay. For others, it got really expensive and didn't do the things it was supposed to do that was promised to America. But it doesn't give people the right to do some of the things they did. Just like this past weekend and the anger that you see a lot of people out there. And this was about, again, there's so many things that this thing was about. And a lot of this was about choice. And that still continues to be that way. And when you talk about Judge Kavanaugh, and I want everybody to understand this, first and foremost, the way that this is going to go is going to be very interesting because most of the time, 40% of the time, it's a unanimous decision in the Supreme Court. They're going to pick and choose the first several cases they hear as the 9, right? That's what I'm calling them now, the 9. They're going to hear cases that are handpicked, that are cases that are not going to be divisive, and you're going to have calmer, cooler heads that are going to be out there discussing things. Kagan and Alito and a few other people that are out there, Sotomayor, and of course Chief Justice Roberts, who's going to have to handle this in a way where, they do this anyways with a new justice. They don't bring they bring on some simple cases, some easy cases. They're going to listen to those. But there's no doubt that there are conservative lawyers out there that are just licking their chops, excited about this opportunity. But it's probably not, you're not going to, this barrage of things that people think are going to happen overnight isn't going to happen overnight. It's just not. But this has really shown the tribalism we have in this country. And we're very divided. And we've been that way for a while. But the division has gotten nasty because we no longer see each other as people. We see each other as the enemy. We no longer see each other as somebody who's got a different idea. We see each other as my idea is right, your idea is evil, and you're evil. And that is not a good way to go about things. It is very interesting to see the way this entire thing is going to play itself out as we move forward. But I understand why people were pissed. I absolutely do. And the Republicans, I understand why there's some gloating going on. Because you won. And part of winning is being able to write the future. That's part of winning. That is absolutely part of winning. And that's what's taken place here. You won. You got people to come out and vote. You put yourself in a position, and I heard a lot of people over the weekend, we need to get rid of, we need to get rid of this, we need to get rid of that. It's like, this is what happens. Stop trying to change the rules. Stop trying to change the rules. You lost. More than the anger, I was sick and tired of the whininess. And I think a lot of you that I talked to over the weekend, even some people out there who can't stand Kavanaugh, can't stand Trump, felt the same way. People I talked to over the weekend. Is this feeling of whininess. It's like, stop. Get over it. Ford is taking, not Ford, but Collins, who gave an impassioned and I thought a very well thought out speech over Friday. She is facing the brunt of a lot of this. And I'll tell you what, she came out and she defended over the weekend on State of the Union and several other places. She defended what she did and talked about everything from, Ford's testimony.
I don't think she was coming forth with a political motive, although I do not think that she was treated well by those who breached her confidence.
Which is something we need to look at. How did all of this stuff get out? But, she once again reiterated, I don't think it was him.
I do not believe that Brett Kavanaugh was her assailant. So I do believe that she was assaulted. I don't know by whom, and I'm not certain when.
So this whole thing, though, she is her opponent that she's going to be taking on absolutely made out like a bandit over the weekend. The money that flowed in, and remember, she's not up till 2020. The money that flowed in was massive. The kind of money, and that Susan Rice talks about stuff like who could take her on and all of these things. She put herself in the firing line. But as I was explaining to somebody over the weekend, she wasn't the deciding vote. She wasn't, right? Joe Manchin had jumped. They had wiggle room there. If she decided to vote no, it still wouldn't have mattered because in the end, Pence would have broke the tie. But she did what she thought she should do. She talked about a thing called due process. And that's, as I talked to people over the weekend, and a lot of women say, I got a ton of text messages and stuff over the weekend for people who were saying, well, women are now second-class citizens and all of these things. And I sat there and I just went, wow, not even close. 425 high-profile men in the last year, since the whole Harvey Weinstein Me Too movement happened, have been taken down and or some are currently sitting in jail, rightly so, or facing criminal charges. Other ones have paid out huge money and will probably never work ever again, and they've been taken down. And that's just the people that are high profile, and some of them wrongly so, right? From Garrison Keillor to Al Franken and to some of these other where you're just like, that's a stretch. So don't say that this hasn't had some effect that has been positive for the side of the person who is essentially the aggrieved party, because that's a bunch of crap. It's absolutely a bunch of crap. 110%. But the thought process that you are now some sort of, this is it, women are never going to be taken seriously again because this guy got on the Supreme Court, you're insane. You're absolutely insane. 110%. I just sat back and I'm like, wow, really? People think that. People actually think that. Wrong. I think more so than ever before. Sexual assault victims, particularly women, right? Not kids or young boys, but particularly women, are believed. And now there's a movement afoot where you got to believe the woman because politically it's the best thing for you, regardless if there's facts. And even if there are stuff that comes out, things that comes out, evidence that comes out that says that none of this stuff happens, that you throw that away, right? Even if they can't prove it, doesn't matter. So don't tell me. And I said it on Friday, and I'll say it again. I also think it's a generational thing. I think there are women that are in their late 30s and above who look at this, and what they want is they want recognition that men were awful horrible through the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and they used their power, into the 2000s and were awful. And they want recognition for that and for the things that they went through. And I think there's a younger generation that looks at this as this is another bullet in my gun. This is another thing to weaponize. From microaggressions to sexism, racism, phobias, all of those things. This is another bullet. Because they're not going through the same thing. Like my mom is in her 60s. She's worked in the construction industry since she was 15 years old. Think about that. Right? Through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And I know all the guys she works with. They're family friends because she's been at the same place since she was in 10th grade. She now owns a piece of the company. And you don't think that women nowadays have it better? Yes. And they're always looking out for what did you say? How did you look at me? What did you do? And it's not just that. A younger generation across the board is looking for you to somehow slip up. They're following you around. So I think this whole thing with this Me Too movement is two-pronged. I think you have an older generation who wants acknowledgement of how bad men have been in the past, and the power structure and the struggle that has gone on there, and not just when it comes to sexual advantage, unwanted sexual advantage and things like that, but just across the board on having to really fight to break through the ceiling, and a younger generation where things have been set up for girls more so than young boys and men. And I think it's going to, and they're looking at it as much as a weaponize of something that they're able to take out there and use as another bullet in their politically correct gun. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. A lot of stuff still to get to. We're going to talk about Christopher Columbus. Is he a hero? Is he a monster? It is Christopher Columbus Day. I joke around and call it Guilty White People Day because everybody's running away from Indigenous People Day. But as we all know, that you go back in time and you look, how did we get here? Who came here? Were people already here? Were they, or did they walk from somewhere? There's always these debates. But it's really what it is we hate Christopher Columbus because of 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ZipRecruiter. So you've got a job. Here you are. You're sitting around. It's a Monday morning. You're like, I need to find some people to work here. Breathe. Do this. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Benson. That's BENSON. This is what they're going to do. You're going to go there and you're going to sign up for free today. It's on me. You can post your job for free. It's going to go to 100 of the web's leading job boards. But this is where ZipRecruiter really distance themselves from all those other yahoos out there. What ZipRecruiter does is they go out there and they start inviting people who match your job description up and their resumes and the experiences they have with your job. And they start inviting, hey, over here, check this out. So then they start applying. And then what they do, they're using their matching technology, is they start going through all of those resumes and all of those people, and they find the best of those, highlight them. In fact, within 24 hours, 80% of people who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate site within the first day. That's amazing. So that's why they're the highest rating site in hiring site in America. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting? Nah, nothing. There you go. I told you can place your job for free today. This is what you do. You go to ZipRecruiter.com/Benson. ZipRecruiter.com/BENSON. Post your job for free today. This time tomorrow, you could have somebody coming on in for an interview that's going to help you grow your company, and you're going to give them an opportunity of a lifetime. ZipRecruiter.com/Benson, BENSON. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. CHADBENSON. It's the Chad Benson Show.
While pointless pundits ponder what was, Chad wisely wonders, what's next?
So check us out on Facebook, Chad Benson Show. A lot of stuff, videos every single day, all kinds of things, great ways to interact, and we're going to be rolling out more and more in the coming weeks. Speaking of Facebook, so I don't know, Phil, have you gotten a lot of these like duplicate fake cloning messages?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so over the weekend, people are freaking out because people are getting messages about their Facebook accounts saying that they're being cloned and to forward this on to people. It's not real. Facebook had an issue a few years ago that was real about cloning and things like this. These are fake. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but I think over the weekend I probably got a dozen plus people sending me stuff through direct message saying that, hey, your thing's being cloned. It's being cloned. It's being cloned. It's not being cloned. It's not real. It's fake. Just about all you have to do is look it up. Every once in a while, take a step back and go, should I look this up? Should I see if this is real or if this is not real? Because I don't think we do that anymore. We've gotten to the point where we're just like, we believe anything. So, no, it's not real. So take a deep breath, okay? Take a deep breath. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. So a question of the day, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper, is he a madman? Was he a horrible human being, Christopher Columbus? Because it is Columbus Day. Or was he a hero in his day? Right? Was he a hero in his day? Because we look at everything now, and this is part of that retro rage we've talked about on numerous occasions, where you post something funny today, you say a joke, and then 6 months from now, the politically correct, modern sensibilities of microaggressions and whatnot come into to play, and the goalpost moves, and then you stand back and you're like, well, wait a minute here. Now it's not funny. And I think for Christopher Columbus, it's that way. And I'm asking you, is he a hero? Is he a monster? Or is he a bit of both? 35% you say, he's a bit of both. 55% say for the day, his day, not our day, his day, he was a hero. 10% say he was a monster. And I want to hear from you because I do find it to be interesting because over the last several years, we've gone to Indigenous People Day and Christopher Columbus you say a bad word and you got to get rid of statues and all these things because of what a horrible human being he was. And this is part of that retro rage where we're erasing history to suit our politically correct modern world. And I don't think we can do that. I think once we start erasing certain things, what ends up happening is we erase the good and the bad, and we forget about those things. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. What a crazy day yesterday. That limo death. I want to touch on that because why don't we have these things in limos and buses? 20 people died. Absolutely. Just horrible, horrible. Plus, I got 12 self-care tips if you're struggling with Kavanaugh, thanks to the Huffington Post, that will help you survive this whole thing. Oh, goodness me. Thank God we're here for you, kids. This is the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This morning, the NTSB investigating the country's deadliest transportation accident in nearly a decade. 18 people inside a limo killed when officials say it barreled through an intersection in upstate New York, plowing into a crowded restaurant parking lot, slamming into an empty SUV, striking and killing 2 bystanders before landing in a wooded area. In total, 20 people died.
Absolutely insane. 20 people died in this limo. If this was a shooting and there was an AR-15, it would be nonstop. But politically, there's nothing here, right? There's no story. You can't spin it. It's just a tragedy. So you got to step back and go, oh, well, this is just awful. Here's my question. Why don't we have seatbelts in these things? Or buses? Right? I mean, I know it sounds like, that'd be uncomfortable. And the whole thing getting a limo is somebody else is driving and you're partying and having fun. I get that. But if I'm driving a car, people in the back can't not have seatbelts on. Right? I mean, it is weird. Like, we let you party in the back of a limo. Let's do all of these. We let you have a bar in the back of a limo. We don't let you have a bar in the back of your car. Even if you're not drinking. We don't let you have a bar. We don't let you. I'm curious about this. And I think that they're going to look at this, and it's a horrible thing. 20 people are dead. 20 people. Think about that.
Barbara Douglas tells ABC News her 4 nieces, Amy, Abigail, Mary, and Allison, were among the passengers riding in a 2001 Stretch Ford Excursion when it crashed.
I had 4 nieces. They're all dead.
One of the sisters, Amy, had just gotten married earlier this summer to her husband, Axel Steenberg. Their uncle says they're the ones who rented the limo to keep the group safe.
That did not work. And now there's something coming out about the limo company. And this is really interesting. And an FBI informant, check this out.
Shahid Hussein used to be an FBI informant who testified in 2 terrorism cases, including one involving an alleged plot to blow up a synagogue in the Bronx. He became an informant in 2002 after he was caught helping immigrants cheat on driver's tests while he worked at the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. The state is now trying to shut down Prestige Limo until the investigation into the deadly crash in Schoharie is complete.
Yeah, so that's that. So there's another twist. What do you bet Trump gets blamed for this? The FBI's involved. But isn't it? I mean, if you think about the more I thought about this, because I drove a lot this weekend, and I mean, it's you're driving and you think about something like this that took place. 20 people lost their lives. Where's the story in it? Right? It was breaking news for 30 seconds, but then it was back to Kavanaugh and all this other stuff because there wasn't a gun involved. There's nothing that news can get out and spin that particular big establishment news can make the Republicans look bad. So the question was, why don't we have seatbelts? Why don't we have certain things? Because I looked at the limo and it was beat the hell up. But I also thought to myself, what else happened? I mean, why don't we have those? Same thing with buses, right? Same thing with a lot of these things that you transport people in. Why don't you have these things? I mean, you should have these things. Well, it's not fun then, man. Oh, I get that. Because people are partying and having fun. I get that. But you can't do that in the back of my car. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I have a Tahoe, right? Or something like that. You can't drink in the back of my car and party it up and not wear a seatbelt. If I got pulled over, that's some serious issues. But they kind of overlook. There's that kind of weird little world of, I think it's a fair question. And when you have 20 people die, like that is, and 18 of them in the limo and 2 outside of this, I think it's a very serious question. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Today is Columbus Day.
In a 2-sentence press release, Columbus, Ohio, a city of more than 800,000 people named after Christopher Columbus, announced its offices are open for business on Columbus Day. The city spokesperson says the decision was made not due to concerns posed by Native American groups, but rather because the city can't afford to give workers both Columbus Day and Veterans Day off this fall. Last year, Akron, Ohio, failed to rename Columbus Day after 2 previous failed attempts. Cincinnati renamed Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, because Columbus was a bad dude. I mean, that's the essential side of it. Columbus, as far as people are concerned politically, it's a horrible human being because he came here and he killed untold millions and he brought disease and all of these things with him, and he's just an evil person. And it's very interesting the way that people come at this. Because we take our modern sensibility, right? So we're woke now. We're such a woke society. You see how woke we are with everything? Equality, all of this stuff, the way it is, the quality of outcome is where we're headed. Everybody's getting stuff. Everybody's great. If you believe in this, then you're a great person. If you believe on this side, you're some sort of phobic, which I never really understood. And I got into a huge argument with somebody over the weekend when people were saying you're transphobic and homophobic. And I'm like, I'm not scared of any of those people. Why would you think that? I think you're getting it wrong. But it's funny the way that we approach this, because I look at it like I can decompartmentalize times, right? Like I can look at this day and age and say, I'm going to put this over here in this thing. Let's break this down and let's look at this. In his day, which is not today, right? Which is 500 plus years ago. In his day, he was a baller. In his day, he was the Neil Armstrong of his day. We're going to try to open up new trade routes. We're doing all kinds of stuff. Look at the way we're going. Check this out. Like a lot of those people back in those days, Magellan and all of these people, it was a dangerous thing, right? So in his day, he was a baller. Did he understand that he was going to bring with him diseases that natives in their, indigenous people in the areas that they were at were going to die? No, for God's sakes. Come on now. Come on. We understood that. My God, we sent our people to the moon, right? And I think First Man opens this week as a perfect example of it. So we sent them up there to the moon, right? We had sent, the Russians beat us to space, and then we were there. And what's the first thing they do? They take these guys and they put them in areas where they can't contaminate anything, because the last thing they want is some sort of weird superbug. We get that now. They didn't have that kind of modern technology. They didn't. They were just a little bit behind. But the way that, was he a bad dude? At times he was. But they were also, we are coming at things like this in our modern sensibility of we're politically correct, we're woke, we understand all of these things and blah, 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 blah. And we look at him and we say it's bad because we look at all of our, it's not just Columbus. I mean, look at what they're doing in schools now when they're getting rid of people because, well, in this day and age, He was for slavery, or he owned slaves, and we go back and we start picking apart things. And that to me is ridiculous. It really is. You have to be able to look at this and say, I can look at you in a way where I can understand in your day and age who you were, what you were about, and in that day and age, in that time that you live, that's how things were done. And I don't think you're a bad person or anything. I just think you are who you are in that day and age. You don't think 100 years from now, people are going to look back at us and think how stupid we are? They're going to look at computers and go, oh, my God, they had to play on computers? Oh, jeez, wow, they didn't have special eyeballs that became computers? Oh, God, how did they live? Right? How did they live? Of course they are. Absolutely. But people can't do that nowadays. They can't take a situation because the goalposts move and politically correct. We all want to be woke, and we're trying to rewrite our history and erase certain things and erase people and erase the things they did for the world because they don't like who they were based on the time that we live now. And you just can't do that, right? You just can't do that. And if anybody should understand that, it's people who like sports, right? Like, this is a perfect example of always trying to compare sports eras, right? Like, oh, this era was so much better than this era and that era, and they fight it all the time, but they don't want to take away any of those eras. They just want, to talk about how great we just want to erase all the history. Could you imagine back today going, let's get rid of Babe Ruth altogether, right? Baseball has one of the most infamous human beings that ever played Major League Sports. Ty Cobb was a racist, anti-Semitic, awful human being. He beat up a one-armed black groundskeeper, and when his wife came to help, he beat her up. He shot a man. He was awful. But people can look at him and go, you know what? Yeah, okay, but we're not going to get rid of all the things he did out there. But we want to do that now. We want to erase, and history is where we are now. We want to erase our founding fathers. We want to erase all of these things. And it's funny because, having lived in Europe and done all this stuff, they look at we look at our history, and we're shamed, and we talk about how horrible we are, and we go all these things. And in Europe, when I was there, they didn't do that. They touched a little bit about that, but they didn't want to rewrite it. Now, their snowflakey world is starting to try to do stuff like that, and you're seeing a lot of that, especially in Britain. But it's amazing because we have this generation that wants to rewrite history, wants to get rid of everybody, and we want to look and say, we were so bad here, let's just erase all of this together. Let's just do that. We can't look at it as this was their time, this is who they were. We can't do that anymore. Now it's just you're evil. And I find that to be ridiculous. I don't think Christopher Columbus was anything other than a man who had some cojones to say, give me a couple boats, go take 3 of those, give me some men, give me some money, we're going to go do this, right? Some of you still think we're going to fall off the earth, right? That's just it. Some of you flat earthers out there think we're going to fall off the earth. I'm going to show you guys that's not going to happen. Never understanding the ramifications long term. And it's so funny because some people are like, well, look what he did. If he didn't come here, somebody else would have. Right? It's like the people think if Elvis wouldn't have come along, right? Like that we would never have found rock and roll. Wouldn't have happened. Wrong. It would have. Somebody else would have come. And maybe that somebody would have been a horrible human being. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. Check out Facebook as well. We do all kinds of things. They got a great thing on Facebook we're going to do a little bit later today about how we can help you cope with what's going on with Kavanaugh. We got 12 steps to help you cope because we care. We care. We do. We do. Bombfellow. Okay, guys, here's the deal. Bombfellow. I want you guys to understand it. Bombfell. This is for you guys out there. I'm looking at your outfits. You can use a little work, but you don't really want to go anywhere because, as we all know, shopping kind of sucks, right? It kind of does. Like, there's some fun stuff you want to go shopping for, and then there's shopping for the look, the clothes, the whole 9 yards. That's where Bombfell comes in. All right? Easiest way to look good. And I don't want you to look, I want you to look great. I want you to look on point. Doesn't matter. You want to look dressed up, sharp, to the nines. You want to look casual, cool. Bombfell's going to do everything. First, what they do is you get your own personal stylist. My guy's named Michael. Really cool. right? They're going to match you with somebody. They're going to send you clothes. Best brands, and I'm talking about the best brands out there. You name it, they have it. You try everything on, comfort of your own home, pay for only what you keep. It's that simple, all right? Everything else you send back, free return shipping. It's that simple. You get up to 20% off when you buy multiple items. It is incredible, the stuff they have. And here's something else. You go and you buy clothes, and it's like, oh, this is an extra large, but here I can wear a large, this, that, and the other. When you wear real good clothes, when you wear clothes that are, you know, it feels good, it fits good, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. There's just something extra cool about it. That's what Bombfell's going to do for you. So save yourself hundreds of thousands of just dollars buying stupid, crazy stuff. Get this. So many guys are doing this. This is what you're going to do, all right? Go to bombfell.com, BOMBFELL.com/Benson. You get $25 off your first purchase. That's bombfell.com/Benson. $25 off. You're going to look amazing and feel amazing. You all know just part of it is how you look. Bombfell.com/Benson. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Darn, that climate change. Batten down the hatches. It's Topical Storm Chad, headed your way.
That's selling for $860. Yeah, if you could maybe get one of the technicians quickly to go and take over there, that'd be great. Okay, we're moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move on here. Sorry, can I have your attention?
Oh, so that was an art auction, and Banksy, the elusive artist, sold a painting for about or some sort of artwork for $1.4 million, and then it self-destructed. And now they're saying it's worth more. It's very interesting the way it did. The minute it was done, so like, hey, somebody won it, all of a sudden it was in this like this frame, and then the artwork started to come down and it got shredded. And it's very interesting. He is, if you don't know who he is, he's an anonymous English-based street artist. His paintings are worth millions upon millions of dollars. He's a political activist. He's a vandal. Some people say he's a film director. He's an interesting character. And this whole thing was a tripper. And now people are saying, oh my God, it's ruined. But now, wait, hold on a second. Now it's worth more. Art's a trip. It is. Art is a weird thing. And what we pay for art and certain things in this country and around the world is crazy. I was watching something last night where a guy had in his closet, he had this like a blanket, and he saw something on one of these shows, and he's like, I think I got one of those blankets, this Navajo blanket, and it sold for $1.5 million, a Navajo blanket, because of the way they made it, how hard it was, and then the modern technology we did, the way that they got stuff and created some of the colors and stuff, and what people will pay for stuff. But they looked at that as this is an artwork that belongs to the world. Banksy's like, I'm an artist. This is my wackiness. Check some of this stuff out. Everything I'm doing is a message. And it's an expensive message, too. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. The question of the day is about, I look at somebody like Christopher Columbus and the anger that this woke generation feels towards Christopher Columbus, never understanding the things that they went through, because we want to look at it in our modern world as he should have been just like us. He should have been inclusive and understand stuff, and that's not the way it was. But it's your question, is he a monster or is he just a bit of a hero, a bit of a monster? 34% say it's a bit of both, 11% say monster, 55% say hero for his day. And if you go back and you look, so many people of that era and that day globally were probably monsters, probably all of them compared to who we are today, right? And it's crazy. It really is, because we are changing the goalpost and rewriting history because we feel politically it's the correct thing to do, and I think it's wrong. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Your useless fact of the day, one of my favorite games, Yahtzee. was actually created anonymously by a couple who were from Canada. They called it the yacht game because they played it with their friends on their yacht. Interesting indeed. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I hope you survive another day of Kavanaugh. Night-night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.